Presidents Biden and Xi call for open lines of communication, but tension over Taiwan hangs over discussions. Taiwan wraps up its biggest annual military exercises, with experts saying to expect more large-scale drills going forward. As North Korea marks Armistice Day, leader Kim Jong-un says his nuclear deterrent stands ready. And the doors of the underworld are open. Taiwan enters its annual Ghost Month. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. US President Joe Biden has told China's Xi Jinping that Washington strongly opposes unilateral efforts to change the status of Taiwan. The warning came during a 2-hour call with the Chinese leader. Tensions between the US and China have mounted over a potential visit to Taipei by the US Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. James Chater reports.
A direct line between US President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping. The call is the fifth between the two leaders and touched on climate change, human rights and war in Ukraine. But it comes as tensions over Taiwan worsen. The White House, emphasizing the talks sought to responsibly manage differences.
They wanted to make sure that they continued the dialogues, kept the open lines for conversation, and that's what we saw today.
Taiwan's foreign ministry said Washington immediately provided a report on the call to Taipei. The ministry thanked President Biden for repeatedly emphasizing the rock-solid relationship between Taiwan and the United States and the importance he attaches to maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait. But hanging over the call, an unconfirmed visit to Taipei by US Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Pelosi leaves Washington for a tour of Asia on Friday. If she stops in Taiwan, as Speaker of the House, Pelosi would be the highest selected US official to visit Taiwan in 25 years. China claims Taiwan as part of its territory and deplores any official interaction between Taipei and foreign governments. The White House, unmoved by questions on the trip.
But does the president have an opinion on congressional delegations traveling to Taiwan?
The president has been a senator himself, as I mentioned, for 36 years, right? He understands this process. You do not tell a congressional member where they can or cannot go. He believes that. This is up to the speaker to decide.
Beijing has already promised a forceful response if Pelosi's trip goes ahead, a point reiterated after the Biden-Xi call.
中国政府和中国人民在台湾问题上的立场是一以贯之的。坚决维护中国国家主权和领土完整是14亿多中国人民的坚定意志。民意不可违，玩火必自焚。希望美方看清楚这一点。
Caught in the middle is Taiwan.
Taipei faces a dilemma. Officials here worry that if Pelosi cancels, it will signal that Beijing can dictate US policy toward Taiwan. But if the trip does go ahead, despite Beijing promising the United States will bear the consequences, many here fear it will be Taiwan that faces reprisals. James Chater for TaiwanPlus in Taipei.
Taiwan is wrapping up its 5-day Hangguang exercises. They are the country's largest military drills in decades. This year's exercises have taken on greater significance amid mounting tensions with China, as Bing Wang now reports.
The Navy, Air Force, and the Army joined forces to fend off a simulated enemy invasion. These are the 38th annual Hangguang exercises. The 5-day drills are meant to test Taiwan's military readiness. This year's exercises had an extra sense of urgency, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine and ramped-up pressure from neighboring China, which sees Taiwan as part of its own territory. President Tsai Ing-wen oversaw the drills on board a Navy warship.
全体水面作战支队的弟兄姐妹，刚才各位精实的操演，展现了中华民国国军保家卫国的能力和决心。我们一起继续努力，守护家园。Good job.
The Hangguang exercises included protecting Taipei, Taiwan's capital, from an enemy attack. It also involved reservist forces and public participation in air raid drills.
It's also a kind of great opportunity to see any kind of weakness or missing part of the defense strategy in its plan to protect the island.
Military officials have already noticed blind spots.
I would like to see more drones and AI weapons employed and demonstrated in our next Kuang exercise, because I see them as the decisive factor in winning the next war. And I believe Taiwan should have and will have more kinds of this military exercise.
The government has increased its defense budget by over $8 billion, looking to acquire more hardware and modernize its forces. This year's drills, the country's largest in decades, were estimated to cost around $200 million. But the feeling here is no price is too high to protect the nation's sovereignty. Ricky and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S. House of Representatives has passed long-awaited legislation to encourage the production of semiconductors in the United States. The bill provides about $52 billion in grants to develop the country's chip manufacturing capability. Semiconductors are used in everything from cars to high-tech weaponry. They have become a security concern for many nations, with production of the most advanced chips centered in a handful of countries, including Taiwan. President Joe Biden could sign the act into law by as soon as next week. North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has threatened to use nuclear weapons in potential military conflicts with the United States and South Korea. His comments came as North Korea marked the 69th anniversary of the end of the Korean War. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick has the story.
Talk of war on a day of peace. As Kim Jong-un marked Armistice Day in Pyongyang, the North Korean leader issued a stern warning to the United States.
지금 우리 무장력은 그 어떤 위기에도 대응할 철저한 준비가 되어 있으며 우리 국가의 핵전쟁 억제력 또한 절대적인 자기 힘을 자기 사명에 충실히 정확히 신속히 동원할 만전태세에 있습니다. 조선민주주의인민공화국은 미국과의 그 어떤 군사적 충돌에도 대처할 철저한 준비가 되어 있다는 것을 다시금 확언합니다.
Wednesday marked the 69th anniversary of the Korean War armistice, which ended fighting between the two Koreas. In North Korea, it is celebrated as a day of victory in the Great Fatherland Liberation War. In this video recently released on state media, Kim is seen visiting a war cemetery with high-ranking military officers and criticizing South Korea's new president for the first time, warning Seoul was pushing toward the brink of war.
우리 군사력의 일부분을 무력화시키거나 맞설 수 있다고 생각한다면 천만에 그러한 위험한 시도는 즉시 강력한 힘에 의해 응징될 것이며 윤석열 정권과 그의 군대는 전면될 것입니다.
In South Korea, which does not celebrate the occasion, the presidential office hit back against Kim's saber-rattling.
북한 김정은 위원장이 6.25 전쟁 정전협정 체결일 계기 연설을 통해 대통령 실명을 거론하며 우리 정부에 대해 위협적인 발언을 한 것에 대해 깊은 유감을 표명한다.
Although the July 27th armistice halted hostilities between North and South Korea in 1953, it also left them technically still at war. Despite the North's celebrations, ratcheting tensions in the region show it still regards the conflict as unresolved. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Two performers have been injured in a shocking accident during a concert by popular boy band Mirror. During their show in Hong Kong, a massive video screen fell onto the stage and appeared to land on one dancer in a direct hit before toppling onto another. The concert was halted and the injured dancers were taken to the hospital, with one in serious condition. This is not the first accident in the concert series. Earlier this week, a band member appeared to lose his footing and fall off the edge of the stage. That first accident prompted thousands of fans to sign a petition urging safety checks. The Taiwan Film Festival has kicked off in Australia. The annual festival, showcasing the works of Taiwanese and Asian Australian filmmakers, is now in its 5th year. After going online because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the festival is back in cinemas across 4 cities. This year's programme includes new features, classic movies and short films. To find out more about the event, Eric Gao spoke with one of the festival's coordinators, Helen Stenbeck.
Why is it so important for this kind of festival, this Taiwan Film Festival, to be held in Australia?
I believe that destination elements for film festivals like this, foreign films are the first visual and sound experience of what is different to our everyday lives. You know, you basically expand the horizon of languages and visual impact. So for us as Taiwanese diasporas in Australia, it is a great opportunity to catch up, you know, some Taiwanese films, especially for the older generations. You don't get much chances to watch a Taiwanese Mandarin film in Australia on big screen. So there's a sense of nostalgic for everyone, of course. And as for the rest of the Australian audiences, Australia is a very diverse country. I believe it is very important for the audiences to absorb different cultural consumptions, such as diverse language, books, music, and of course films, to understand cultures beyond your own.
As you mentioned, there aren't that many Taiwanese people of Taiwanese ancestry in Australia. Given the relatively small numbers, how big an impact does Taiwanese culture have on Australian society?
Well, unfortunately, Stu, there's a lot of people consider Asians as monolithic group in most Western nations. So it's very similar in Australia. And the understanding of Taiwan by many Australians is very limited. However, it also depends on who you're speaking to about Taiwan. You know, you might get a group of people who still confuses between Taiwan and Thailand, and then you might meet a group of people who traveled and work in Taiwan, and they'll tell you how much they love Taiwanese food. So I guess apart from that, I believe exporting other cultural aspects of Taiwan still has a space for improvement.
So as you mentioned, Australia is already very culturally diverse. So after people come and see these Taiwanese films, what kind of reactions do they have?
That's a brilliant question. Most people that we've spoken to, they have very positive feedbacks, and especially for those Asians who are not of Chinese heritage, you know, the frequent conversations will come up will be about the food and the social aspects of Taiwan after they've seen the film. You know, they will ask about more like, is this what Taiwan really like? Or can you tell us a little bit more about, you know, what we've seen after the films? And they would kind of compare how liberal Taiwan is compared to their own country. For example, Chinese film and TV industry has been rather progressive in creating LGBTQI+ stories and also the female empowerment stories, which I believe are very popular amongst Asian diasporas in Australia. And of course, representation matters so much when you're in a nation that is predominantly white media production. And if you don't get to see your kind of own cultural production or your own cultural representation, at least, you know, the Asians here, they will see something remotely similar, such as Taiwan Film Festival. We play such an important role in the sense of the diverse representation.
Ghost Month has officially begun here in Taiwan. It's a time of the year when spirits in the underworld are said to return to the world of humans. As John Van Trieste reports, it's a period of colourful rituals, but also taboos.
At 11 p.m. on Thursday, the door to the underworld opened. Across Taiwan, temples held events to welcome the spirits, who, according to traditional belief, are allowed out for a month each summer, the so-called Ghost Month. It's observed in much of the Chinese-speaking world, including Singapore, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and parts of China. In northern Taiwan, the temple to the city god of Hsinchu opens a physical door to let the spirits back into the world of the living.
这个门不打开，它就出不去，因为这个虎门是管出的，龙门管进的，都有那个门神在那边看着。
Over the course of the lunar month, which this year lasts to August 26th, temples, businesses, and neighborhoods will leave out piles of food offerings for the spirits and hold ceremonies asking for their blessing. In some parts of Taiwan, including Yilan on the east coast, events include the release of elaborate floating lanterns onto the water.
它放水灯的作用就是等于是邀请这些好兄弟前来我们宜兰城来接受人间的供奉。
But despite the warm welcome, the spirits are to be feared. Traditionally, Ghost Month is an unlucky time, with marriages, moves, and even non-essential hospital visits put off until the ghosts leave. Other taboos include water lanterns aside. That's where spirits are said to lurk, waiting to pull the living to their doom. Some people even avoid hanging laundry at night for fear that ghosts might try on their clothes. Overall, Ghost Month is a time to respect the spirits, but also make sure they stay at a distance. James Rayner and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, preserving a national treasure, how Taiwan's ancient salmon are being saved from the brink of extinction. Details after the break.
Good local time, everyone. Welcome to Innovative Minds with Audrey Tong.
I would say one thing that I think the biggest difference is, do we see cuisine or culinary as a culture or as tourism? It should be under culture. Every Taiwanese should learn Taiwan flavor history. For example, when I was in Singapore, I represent Singapore to Paris to cook in the embassy of Singapore for all the ambassadors coming from around the world to show Singapore cuisine, which doesn't make any sense. I'm Taiwanese. Culinary is the best tool for us to show who we are, our identity.
Hey everyone, I'm Andre Chang. I'll see you on TaiwanPlus.
I'm Audrey Tong. See you on TaiwanPlus.
For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please make sure to download the TaiwanPlus app.
好，打开。很小心哦，过去。A beautiful yellowfin tuna， 我放下来太重了。没吃过猪肉，才看到猪找路啊。Very nice。OK， 好。
According to CNN, of a survey of done of 40 of the foods that you need to eat in Taiwan, roe fine or braised pork rice is at the very top. This is the #1 thing. $15 US, 16 US, 18 US. Wait, what? Huh? Wait. Did we get the wrong card?
No, don't waste your money. Just go and eat what local people do.
Jason's Table Shocked and Surprised is now available on TaiwanPlus.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. At least 8 people have been killed in massive flooding in the U.S. state of Kentucky. Governor Andy Beshear has declared a state of emergency in 6 eastern counties after a series of storms inundated the area. Rescue teams are working to save people left stranded, and some 23,000 homes have lost power. Several people remain missing, and the governor says the death toll is likely to climb into the double digits.
In a word, this event is devastating, and I do believe it will end up being one of the most significant, deadly floods that we have had in Kentucky in at least a very long time.
Divers on Green Island off Taiwan's east coast say coral reefs there have suffered widespread damage. It's not the first time the reefs have been harmed, and once again it's reconstruction work to a harbour that's being blamed. Louise Watt reports.
Underneath a fishing harbour on Taiwan's Green Island, divers have found major damage to coral reefs. The divers and authorities blame a construction company tasked with repairing the harbour, which was damaged in a typhoon 6 years ago.
他们已经是第3次对自然海域进行大规模，我强调是大规模的破坏。光这一次就已经有4到5个篮球场的大小的珊瑚礁被破坏掉。
In mid-July, divers found a construction boat's anchor line on top of coral at Moai Rock, a popular diving spot here. The local county government fined the construction company the equivalent of $1,000 and asked it to come up with a plan to improve its operations. But divers say the boat is still being used, and they found yet more damage.
依照他们之前的经验，我们是用渔业法破坏海洋生态栖地环境的方式去罚它。那这个部分我们会按照这次损坏的程度，我们也会连续开罚它。
For the repeat offence, the construction company is facing a fine of up to $5,000. County officials have also ordered the boat at the centre of it all back to harbour and asked the Coast Guard to keep an eye out in case it ventures near coral reefs again. Piper Yo and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Humanity has used up a year's worth of renewable resources in less than 8 months. July 28th was this year's Earth Overshoot Day. That's the day when humans use up all biological resources that can be sustainably regenerated in a given year. The date has been steadily coming earlier every year. In 1970, it fell on December 29th. By 1990, the day had moved to October 11th. In 2022, it would take 1.75 Earths to provide for the world's population in a sustainable way. That's according to research organisation Global Footprint Network. It says the food production system and its considerable ecological footprint is the main cause for the speed of consumption. While there's plenty of concern for the planet's future, in Taiwan, a new exhibition is celebrating the natural world. More than 1,700 animal and plant specimens are now on show as part of a permanent display at National Taiwan Science Education Center in Taipei. The exhibition includes animals like the endangered leopard cat and rare types of fungi and moss. Visitors can interact with the exhibits, with organisers hoping it will help raise awareness of Taiwan's biodiversity. On the topic of biodiversity, Taiwan has something to celebrate. Its tiny native salmon, once on the brink of extinction, have just passed a big milestone in their recovery. Eugene Huang reports.
The Formosan landlocked salmon is an ancient relic. It's been here longer than humans. After the last ice age, when water swarmed, they headed inland, up mountain streams cold enough for them to survive in. Indigenous people ate these fish, but otherwise coexisted with them. The problems began in 1960.
中横开通，这里开始种植经济作物，就可能包括我们的高丽菜呀，那或者一些苹果、桃子之类那些。然后加上我们大甲溪下游就是德基水库，那我们在樱花公龟的生存地这里就开始有很多的蓝沙坝。
Pesticides, fertilizer, and disturbed habitat took a heavy toll. By 1992, when a national park was established in the area, there were only 200 fish left. Years of work since then have helped bring them back.
那我们已经完成了就是鲑鱼的完全养殖，就是我们可以把它从卵养到成熟，还包括它的放流，那还有就地保育，就是那整个它的栖息地的保护，那包括拆坝，就是把失能的蓝沙坝拆掉，还有把一些私有的菜地征收回来，然后我们来种了很多的树。
Every year, researchers don wet gear and take charge of a stretch of stream each to do a fish census. The total count has just broken 10,000. But the work is not done yet.
因为气候变迁，然后就是现在的干旱或者是洪水，就是天气变得比较极端，那其实这些对鱼来讲也是很大的挑战。
No matter the challenge, Taiwan's national parks are determined to make sure the Formosan landlocked salmon called one of the country's national treasures, continues to be a survivor. Eugene Huang, Bill Gong, and Zhang Ventriast for TaiwanPlus.
A rare dinosaur skeleton has become one of the most valuable ever sold at auction in the United States. The complete skeleton of a Gorgosaurus fetched $6.1 million at Sotheby's in New York. This specimen is about 3 meters high and over 6 meters long, or about the size of an African elephant. It was found in the state of Montana in 2018. The Gorgosaurus lived 77 million years ago and was a close relative of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Taiwan's southern city port of Kaohsiung is hosting some special and very cute visitors. Giant inflatable characters designed by Taiwanese artists are floating on the city's Love River. More will be joining them in the coming days as the city prepares to host Creative Expo Taiwan. It's the biggest showcase of the country's cultural and creative industries. The 10-day event begins on August 5th. You can find out more about the expo on our website, TaiwanPlus.com. There'll be lots of content going live from next week. Thank you for watching Taiwan Plus News. I'm Yin Khvat. We leave you with images of the United Arab Emirates' first indoor dog gym, helping to improve their fitness and health. For more stories from around the world, please download the Taiwan Plus app. Stay safe and see you next time.